everybody. Welcome back to Black Game Pro Sessions, the platform where we highlight the amazing people working in this industry, amazing people of color. It's to show that there's people out there that look like us that are doing amazing things. And hopefully through that, I inspire all of you out there to find out more about all these different ways that you can get into this industry. Complete side note before I introduce today's guests. I'm super hyped about the GTA trailer coming up, but that's just me. I'm a GTA fanboy. I love how they market it. The reason why I'm sharing this is because of these kind of partnerships between one of the biggest gaming publishers in the world, Rockstar, and Netflix. Unexpected, expected. Love that kind of stuff. Anywho, today's guests work in one of those areas that can completely transform how a game feels, even when most players may not consciously realize it. Colin Andrew Grant, a music designer at Respawn Entertainment, with more than a decade of experience working across music, sound, design, and dialogue. His credits, and this is super impressive, include Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Halo Infinite, Concrete Genie, and his work on Jedi Survivor contributed to an MPSE award for music editorial. So he's an awarded music designer. But Colin's impact goes beyond the games themselves. As fundraising chair for the Game Audio Diversity Alliance, he's also helping to create opportunities, mentorship, and greater access for people from underrepresented backgrounds who want to build careers in video game audio or in game audio. So today we're going to talk about his journey into the industry, the invisible craft behind the interactive music, the realities of building a creative career, and why opening doors for the next generation matters. So, my friend Colin, welcome to Black Game Pros Sessions. And here he is. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, good sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, man. I really appreciate it. And I'm just really looking forward to having this conversation. It's months in the making, so
Yeah.
This better be good. So how have you been, good sir?
Been good. Things have been busy, which is a good problem to have. But yeah, I've been looking forward to this. Like you said, I've been talking about this for a hot second. So hopefully I can live up to the anticipation.
I'm sure you can. I'm sure it'll be all right. We have over 100 people that click register for this session. So, we might see some questions pop up every now and then. Sometimes people are just quiet and want to listen, which is also perfectly fine because it's all about uplifting you and giving you your flowers because you've done some amazing things. Now, before we get into becoming awesome, you have to start somewhere. So take us back to that because for a lot of people, and maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of people think the only way to make a career in video games is if you're a programmer, if you're a coder, content creator, all that kind of stuff. You found your own path.
Yeah. I was definitely, when I was very young, I was with the same mindset. I loved playing video games. Nintendo was my console of choice as a kid. It was the one I was gifted. And so I was like, I love games. This is fun. What do I have to do? You look it up online back in the early 2000s. Oh, you got to be a coder. So I pushed myself in math as much as possible. And it wasn't really the thing that clicked for me. And so I had my ninth grade math teacher was like, yeah, you're never going to do anything with math. And I was crushed, right? But I was also at the time doing music. I'd been playing trumpet since I was in third grade, picked up various instruments, guitar, keyboard, percussion. And eventually I fell into music composition back in college. Back in high school, I had an amazing jazz band teacher who taught me kind of the beginnings of composition. And I had an amazing choir teacher that taught me music theory. And so I ended up going to college to get a general degree in music, focusing on music composition, as well as I kind of fell into, because I'm a massive nerd, I actually liked one person in class, liking to write papers. So I fell into like musicology and ethnomusicology while I was in college as well.
Oh, wow.
And so,
okay.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. University of Pittsburgh is a great college if you like to write papers for music stuff, and I did. So it worked out very well for me. But I did that.
Do you still remember like the first paper that you wrote? And like, what was the conclusion?
I remember maybe not the first paper I wrote, but I remember. For the final, of the major, you got to choose whether you want to do a composition that got performed, which I probably should have done, or you could do performance, or you could write a paper and have a jury give a speech about it and get questioned on it. And I did the latter. And so I wrote a paper and then I gave a talk and defended it, talking about music
Mhm.
and the localization of music in Japanese animation and anime, and talking about the Americanization of that music, and especially in the late 90s, early 2000s, how much music was changed as it was perceived needed for the local market, and how that has changed over the last couple of decades. Really niche, really specific stuff.
No, it's super interesting. You guys on Japanese anime, so kind of geek culture. At that time, did you already have like a notion of, okay, I want to take my music into video games, or was it something that just happened? Because sometimes that's how that goes.
Yeah, it was just a combination of a couple of my interests. Originally, I was going to go to college for anthropology, and then at the last second, I changed it to music and communications. And so I still had that anthropology interest in my soul. So I took that
Mhm.
my other major. And I kind of got lucky because at the time, I was still focusing on composition specifically for film. But I interviewed a bunch of people for that, and that's where I first found out about music editing, because I was able to interview a couple people that edited music for anime for the American Western market. And so that was the first seed in my head that was like, oh, people, that's people's job. It's not just writing music. Somebody has to take it and maybe chop it up and put it in.
I
So
mean, for the people that don't understand, what does music editing mean? Is it just, for example, looking at like a video editor? So you take a piece of music, cut, stitch to stitch, or
yeah, there are a lot of situations, and it'll differ from company and from the from what you're doing. But a lot of times we will get various on top of the actual music track that you get delivered from the composer. You may also get stems like, here is all the strings in this track, here is all the percussion in this track. And part of a music editor's job is to make that work in the film, in the TV, in the video game. Whether that means just placing it down, making a couple of movements as the cut changes,
Mhm.
or in a case like in video games, especially for what I do, you may get 3 hours of music, but it's a 20-hour experience, and you have to find a way to make that music feel like it's meant for a 20-hour experience, and to avoid the situations where a lot of players will be like, oh, this music's annoying, I've heard this track a million times, let me shut it off. I tell people most of my job is trying to make people not shut off music because of the implementation.
that's so interesting. So when did the spark arrive to be like, okay, instead of film composing or film music editing, video games is the way to go? Was there
Yeah,
like, was there someone who like planted that seed, or was it just something that you encountered through your papers and the work that you did?
it was, I think there were a couple of seeds. One is I attended MagFest in college, and I was able to attend a talk at that time from Will Roger, who is an amazing composer, black composer, who's worked on just Star Wars and all these different titles. And so he gave a talk about his work in music and video games. He started in LucasArts, and he was doing a lot of implementation there. So seeing that talk was like, oh, okay, people do this for video games. And then after that, I ended up going to the San Francisco Conservatory of Music to do a diploma in technology and applied composition. And it was a lucky situation where I thought the program was a little bit more film focused than it actually was. It was
Mhm.
very multidisciplinary. Anyone can study whatever, but there was a big focus, at least at the time, on game music, and it's up in the Bay Area, and they had a relationship with PlayStation, which is based in San Mateo, a little bit down south of the city. And but there was a class you could take where the leads of the music production from San Mateo would come in. They'd give you a brief for a video game, and they would be like, "Okay, we've got a 3 minute suite for this game, and and come back. We're going to give you notes. Show us how well you can address these notes that we give you. Show how well you can take feedback. Show how well you can take this music and prepare it for a recording session. How well you understand the technology, like Pro Tools." Is involved in how well you can follow the instructions. So I did that class, and I was able to get music recorded, and I was able to learn more about what they do. At the time, it was Jonathan Mayer was the head. And so I
Mhm.
ended up I applied for the internship when I graduated because I was really interested in what they were doing, and I ended up getting it. And I the more and more I did, and the more I was able to learn from these amazing music designers and music leads, the more I fell in love with the process of being able to take somebody else's music and try to give it as much shine in the non-linear world as possible. It's exciting to get music from some of the best people who write music in the world and really make it work in that linear fashion.
How do you, I know where I'm bouncing all over the place, but indeed, you work with already composed music, sometimes world famous music, Star Wars, for example. How do you stay true to the core and the soul of this piece of music? Especially, like you said, some games are 20 hours, some games are longer than 20 hours, and you only have 3 hours of music.
Yeah.
I know I'm going right into it,
Yeah.
but I'm just super curious about that.
It changes from project to project what that setup is. As a music designer, I tend to work with my boss, my music lead, or music manager or director, whatever the title is. And in the best of situations, I also get to work very directly with the composers as well. So it's a very open situation. It's very collaborative. So I get to understand why they wrote this, what their intent was, and I, as a music designer, have a duty to make sure that intent gets across. And you can handle that various ways. I may need to chop up this piece of music that I got from them to give us more variety, but I want to make sure that the full piece. I may choose to make that sure that that full piece that they sent us, because a lot of what we do is that we just have them write pieces of music. We're not making them write to the interaction all the time. But having that piece of music play first, and then I'll chop it up and get that variety, but making sure that intent, so that if someone's listening to something, be like, oh, that's the track. So trying to do my due diligence and making sure that it's properly.
That's a huge responsibility, though, man. I've also just saw that Chase is in the chat, who's agreeing indeed that it's a delicate balance to indict music for a game where the music is turned off from the player.
Yeah.
Chase is a composer. Right? Yeah, he's a composer. You're the designer or the music. What's the main difference is basically someone like Chase would compose the music that you then see how you can use it and stretch that all out through a specific game or a specific product, right?
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
understanding it well.
Yeah, I'll also point out Chase is an amazing composer, but also an amazing implementer in his own right too. He does it all. But yeah, I think the main difference between my job and my job is fairly niche. You really only see it in the AAA, maybe in like a bigger indie space, but it really only exists in this AAA space for the most part. Where a composer's job is to write the music, is to understand what the designers, what the game team is trying to get across and making sure that properly represented in the music. And then my job is essentially doing everything but writing it. So making sure that it's properly implemented, working with the team to make a music design structure so that there's like a language of players to understand, okay, if I'm playing a game that has, a stealth mode, I know this kind of music is playing. And then, I heard the music just transitioned to this more upbeat music. I understand that I was spotted. And so there is a language that players can understand when it comes to more systemic stuff, as well as making sure that the music always feels fresh and new, and it feels like it was always as composed. If I do my job right, nobody knows that I did my job. And everybody thinks every last little piece of music that they hear was composed specifically for that moment, even if that was an edit that I made from 7 other different tracks.
You get your compliments and flowers from Chase. So it's a vice versa kind of thing. There's also a question in the chat. Have you ever created music for a video game before you know the plot of the video game? Or do you start the process based on the premise of the video game? Thanks. And this question comes from, I need to check, who is this? This question comes from Anonymous right now.
Yeah. It's very much one of those situations where every game is made so uniquely. I don't have the numbers to back this up, but I'm willing to bet that the vast majority of composers will know the plot or have a general understanding once they're brought on to the project. If they're testing for a project, if someone's like, I think I want you to be the composer, kid, here's a brief that I'll give you to see if you can write music for this. They may not necessarily know what it is, the game is, but once someone's brought onto the project, they will be brought in and understood. But I'm sure there's a situation too where somebody was just told, write us a suite of music, and here's the general ideas and themes, and then they took all that and put it in themselves. That's one of the fun things, that each game is going to be very different.
That's so interesting. I've been in the industry for 20 years, but it's like a whole new world that's opening up for me, because it's like I am within the corporate structure, so I don't. Yes, I do deal with the dev teams as well, but this specificity I was not specifically familiar with, which is it's super interesting. I love this stuff. Now I have a question. You said in previous interviews that music design appealed to you because it combined creative and technical thinking.
Yes.
Which side came more naturally, and which side did you have to fight to become good at? Because that's completely like left brain, right brain kind of thing.
Yeah, I think definitely the creative came first, because since I was a child, I've been playing music. Music was always in my life too. My family loves music. You know the experience: Sunday morning, your mom's blasting gospel music, wake up and go to church. So the creative aspect has always been in my life, and I did struggle in the beginning to get my head around the technical. There were definitely times starting out learning Wise, going into Unreal, being like, I don't think my mind can conceive these concepts. But once that clicked, I think the more and more I do this, the less I find a difference between the creative and the technical, because even in the technical, there's a lot of creativity. How I choose to implement a piece of music, how I choose to make a music system, depending on what tools I have at hand, may require a lot of very creative solutions.
I love that. But then, indeed, if you're more like the creative originally, how do you then deal with having to do with other people's music? And then not being the composer, but like here's a product, and go and chop it up and make it work for this entire production.
Yeah, I love it. Even as a composer myself, my process has always been write a bunch of music, and then the process for me really begins not necessarily in the writing, but in the editing of that music. So that my mind is already geared towards that. But I think, again, it comes down to the collaborative, because not so much on my end, hey, I get the music, I can have fun, play with it. It takes a lot of trust for a composer to give something that they put themselves into and be like, here's this thing I spent so much time thinking about and working on. Please don't destroy it beyond recognition. And it's something I have to take very seriously, because you put a lot of yourself in writing music, and then you're handing it off to someone to. And a lot of times a composer may not necessarily have all eyes on every aspect of the game, especially kind of composers I work with. They may be working on multiple games. They may not have the ability to have eyes on everything. So they trust me to take what they made and extrapolate that out to the rest of the game, while still being true to their intent.
That's getting there. Probably takes. You've been in the industry for a while. Let's go back to the internship, the PlayStation internship, because a lot of people assume, oh, I'm an intern at, or you're an intern at PlayStation or an intern at Sony. You made it. You're there. I mean, looking back, what mattered most in the getting started part? Was it the education? Was it your technical ability, your portfolio, your relationships, timing, combination of all?
I think it was a combination of a lot of things. I like to say I got that internship and it was amazing, but I don't think I got it necessarily because I was the most technical person. I know people that are in my cohort that are more technical, and there are people who are better composers. I think a lot of it was timing, as well as the thing, knowing what I excelled in, which was being my attention to detail, my ability to write. I come from, again, a very creative writing background as well. And so my ability to craft a good resume, to craft a good cover letter, and to sell myself, I feel that was, at the time, back when I was an intern, a much stronger skill that I had than my technical chops.
Fair enough.
I feel like a lot of that came later, but I think I was able to, because I knew that was the skill I was strongest with, I was able to lead with that. And knowing that I can grow into these other things, let me show what I'm good at and show that I have this ability to be very organized, be very, again, the nerd in the room. I love a good spreadsheet. And that's, if you told me 10, 20 years ago that spreadsheets was going to be such a big part of my life, that Google Sheets was going to be a massive tool in my back pocket, I'd be like, what are you talking about? No, I write music. It is. It's just as
Oh,
important.
yes. Oh, spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations of all probably less PowerPoint presentations for you, but still, yeah, I know that feeling. Another question. What has been your favorite music score or composition for a video game thus far? And I think let's talk generally and maybe attach it to, was there a moment when you were younger that you watched a piece of media that was like, that made it open the door of, oh, music can be used in this way?
Yeah. Oh, man. I have to say that for me, it all started with the Pokemon music. I got a original Game Boy. My dad worked in hotels, and it was back when they were trying to use video games as an actual tool. So he had like a game. He got a cartridge so that was like showed like different flight patterns, and it ended up not being useful. So he gave it to me, and so I got Pokemon Yellow, and being able to hear, I think, this music that I never heard that type of music before. This very
Mhm.
electronic music, and hearing how it reacted to what you do. You get spotted, and you get that da 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 da. Hearing that track, it's like I caused that to happen. Was such a, oh wow, this is different from movies. This is very
Mhm.
different from putting a CD or a cassette in. This is music is doing something different here.
Oh yeah, it's fully immersive. I think, and that's where the strength of or the power of video games come in because people fully immerse and engage in this specific world. So music or audio design and sound design is so much more important to bringing that world to life and making sure the immersion doesn't break.
Yeah.
Now, in the past, you've talked a lot about quality over quantity in a portfolio. In your opinion, what does a strong portfolio reveal beyond technical competence? What does it tell you on how someone thinks? How do you recommend people like, okay, how to make a portfolio, basically? How
Yeah.
do you make your portfolio?
It's definitely one of those, especially my job is so niche that there isn't, unlike maybe sound design, there isn't as much advice out there of how to do a music design portfolio, especially if you haven't worked on a game. I think showing you need to show, yes, you have that background in music. You need to show that you have some sort of technical chop, but I think showing that you have intent and you have a strong sense of self, and
Mhm.
that sign shines through because you can try to do the same thing that everyone has done. Oh, let me take this massive score from Hollywood and edit it to something, to a big trailer, and it can sound very good, but it may not. I think a strong portfolio shows that you're willing to take strong chances and you're able to execute on them as well. Maybe in this, I'm editing to a cinematic, and I make the choice to, I'm going to drop out music here when people might not expect it, and being able to show that you have that sense of timing and that sense of, I know what I want and I can execute on it. I think shows that you can be creative, because it's difficult to show music design in a reel, because you're, unlike sound design, you're taking other people's work, you're taking other composed music, and you're trying to show that you know how to work with that, unlike, instead of creating your own thing.
It's so interesting, man. It's an entirely new world. So let's do a little like creative test. Take us into a gameplay moment. Player enters the location, encounters an enemy, and then unexpectedly runs away. So, what is your decision process behind the scenes so that the music responds naturally? I know
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot, but how do you decide? What's the process?
Yeah, so first things first is that you look at, okay, is this a special moment?
Mhm.
Is this a more systemic moment? Is this, if you're playing an open world game, is this something that can pop up randomly, versus this is a moment that I am going to make feel unique? If it's part of your more systemic moments that will happen, what is the game design team trying to tell the player? What is the game design? What is that gameplay loop? Right? You can put as many you can try your best to make it feel like there's a stealth layer, but if the game doesn't allow it, doesn't isn't really a stealth kind of game, it's going to feel weird. You have to understand the mechanics and what the game design team wants to happen. And then after
Mhm.
that, it's a lot of that, you get that feedback loop of, what music are we writing? What will this music allow you to do that sounds good? It's if it's a you may be it, if the music is maybe a little bit more nebulous and the gameplay is very snappy, you may want to have this music transition immediately. You don't care about the beats, you don't care about the measure. This person just, like you said, just ran away, and you want an immediate response to when they do that. Versus, I may have this fully orchestral score and there's a lot going on. I may want to wait for the beat to transition to this running away music. The music will help inform your implementation decisions as much as, say, implementation can help inform what music needs to get written.
Yeah, that makes sense. But that's also opens Pandora's box because there's so much you can do.
Yeah.
And I think there are systems. I mean, I think you've also said so that music systems cannot react to everything or they become a mess. So how do you decide? How do you decide where to stop? How do you decide where enough is enough?
You set limitations. You create constraints, and then you allow the constraints to help decide the creativity. Like I said, if I try to do every single time they do this attack and this attack, I switch up the music, it's gonna sound like a mess. But if I'm like, we can react to one in this fictional game super combo, and music is going to transition based off the super combo hit that happens, and music is not going to react, say, when a bunch of enemies show up. It's still going to be the same music, but when this specific type of enemy, this kind of mini boss kind of comes in, then we will set that up to change. If you make those decisions early on and you stick to that, that's when you can start to decide, okay, how can I make this feel good? And how can I get the most impact? Because the last thing you want to do is to, I say that, but there are exceptions to everything. But for me personally, I don't like making music systems a thing that the player can play, right? In the sense that the player knows exactly, these are all the things I need to do to make music transition, and I know exactly what the music transition is going to do here, and I'm going to hear it. It's a very audible thing that happens all the time. I cross a barrier going from this place to this place, and it immediately shifts, right? I may be like, when you go from location A to location B, I will have a 10-second crossfade transition to cover that up so that there isn't a line in the sand that the player will cross and music changes.
Yeah.
I want a more gentle touch to it.
Yeah.
And that's a decision that gets made very early on.
How do you draw this out? Spreadsheets again, or is it like you like storyboard the entire scene and you like pick the beats where the music comes in or when the music fades out or when a sound effect happens? What does this look like?
Yeah, that process, again, it will be very different depending on the team, depending on the game. Sometimes if I'm in early enough, because for a lot of my career, I come in a year or so before ship. If I'm in early enough, I'm able to, again, work with the music director, possibly talk with the composers, talk with people on the team, get captures of what's happening in the game, and then I'll get temp music and we will go back and forth and we will, in a very linear fashion, plot it out. How does this feel? How does this happen? How does, if we wait 10 seconds for this to happen, will this be good? Okay, let's shift that over. And then we're like, okay, this feels good. Let's make that work actually in the game engine. And actually,
sorry to interrupt, but is it like a writer's room where everybody's like around the table looking at a screen, or is it how? Like practically,
yeah.
Sorry for this deep, but practically, what do these meetings look like?
Practically, at least in my experience, again, different for everyone, but in my experience, there will literally be meetings where I will sit and I'll be talking with, in this example, a music director, and we will go back and forth. They may have a good idea. They may be like, I want you to, I like how this game does this thing. Can we do something like this? Will this work for this? We'll be throwing out examples from games. We'll be throwing out examples from movies. I like how in this movie, Finding Nemo, whatever, I like how this music transitions in this. Can we build a system around this feeling of how this music blossoms in the scene? It's very collaborative. It's very open, and
I love these creative rooms. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's great because everyone's coming from a different experience. Some people will be, I'm a gamer 100%. Other people may be like, I come from, my background is in film, but I transitioned over to games, and this is what I take from that experience.
It's so interesting. And there's probably a lot of like little audio details in games that most players would have probably never consciously noticed, but that requires like an unreasonable amount of work. Can you give an example of one thing that you like spent so much time on, but in the end it was just because if you do your work properly, people don't notice it? Was there like
Yeah.
one example of thing that you're like, if only people would have noticed that more?
I wouldn't say necessarily notice more, but I will say that I'm trying to think of a good example, of course. But I will say on Halo Infinite, that game was a lot of editorial. There was a lot of editing on that, and we had an amazing audio lead, Joe Yorger, music lead, who shepherded me and the other music implementer through the process. And we were given a lot of freedom to edit music, especially explore music. There, I remember getting the other person who worked with me on it sent me a video of tracks that someone posted on YouTube. Was like, "Oh, I love this track. Why isn't it on the soundtrack?" And that's because that is an edit that we made. And so I wouldn't say I wish more people knew, because again, these are things that the composers made, and I'm more than happy with people not knowing what I do. But I think seeing something that like, "Oh wow, this edit I made resonated with someone," does fill me with a bit of pride, and it feels like, okay, I did something good.
Man, you mentioned Halo. I have so many flashbacks to back in the days playing Halo, the first Halo games with my college friend, and the music. That was the thing that we always talked about, the music and sound design in these games, the epic, like, it kind of was like, it's still 20 years or even more than 20 years later, we're still talking about the music in Halo, that it was so impactful. And that shows how impactful audio design and music design can be in video games. We're not talking about the gameplay. No, we're talking about what the music made us feel. Like we're like the epic warlords shooting the aliens, which is, I love Halo. I love Halo. But from one AAA game to another, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. You and the Respawn music team won the 2024 NPSC Golden Reel Award for the music editing of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Now, you described this game as one of your most fulfilling music projects. But what made this personally fulfilling beyond the scale of the franchise and the award, of course, and the fact that it's Star Wars?
I think it's just the amount of trust that is given in the team, and the ability to, we were allowed to, as music editors, implementers, go off, be like, do our own thing, come back and be like, hey, here's a thing that I think is super cool. Here's an edit I made of it. I already put it in the game. I made the system. I proved it out. What do you think? And nobody's going to be like, how dare you? You should have gone to me first. We were allowed to be very creative and allowed to pitch ideas as long as we could back them up. And so having that flexibility to do that, just really, it felt good. And the thing that I came to do in the industry, which I came here for film and then I came to games, but the thing I always wanted to do was to collaborate with people through sound, whether that's music or design or dialogue, but to collaborate with that. And I felt that very strongly working on that project.
I can imagine. And that must have been such a goosebump kind of moment when you played the final or saw the final project.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's real. Pinch myself.
It's definitely being able to see how quickly teams can build things up. Again, like up until most recently, I come in a year, maybe a little bit more time if the game was delayed before ship, and seeing how quickly these teams, and me being on the team as well, how quickly we go from block out into this beautiful things, and seeing all the departments come together, how the lighting and how the technical implementation of a feature, and then how music and sound and how that all kind of gets turned on and works. You get that feeling, oh, we're making something that's going to be great. It's lovely.
Yeah, especially working with a huge team together, indeed, all working towards the same thing and then getting rewarded for that must have been so fulfilling. So when you won this award, did you feel like it was a recognition of your own journey, recognition of the team, or recognition of a form of work that is usually invisible? Or all of the above?
I think it's all the above. It's getting motion picture sound editors is a very specific, very unique industry group. And so it's nice to see that people who do the things you do and understand the nuance and understand the specific things that go into it, recognize your work and be like, hey, you did a good job, to you and to your team. Because a lot of people worked on that, composers, the other music editors that worked on it. You spend a lot of time heads down and not really, you have to make the thing, and then to come out of it and have people who understand the craft be like, you did a good job. It's nice. You don't do it for the awards, but the awards feel, especially those kind of awards, it does help you be like, okay, I'm not just faking this. I'm not some kind of imposter. Other people who do the thing I do, and in many senses, are better to say, oh yeah, you did a good job. It's like, okay.
So how do you celebrate personally, not with the team, when you got back home after celebrating with the team? What was your moment?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm not a big like, hey, I got an award, go out and have fun.
No, but even if it was just a personal moment that you have, like a moment looking yourself in the mirror, like, I did that this happened, and like you said, it's real.
Yeah.
I'm not just throwing away my life.
I think for me, the celebration is a form of reflection of like how we were talking about. This is where I started. I remember these feelings of, can I do this? The points in my career was like, I'm not sure if this is going to work out for me. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to go back to the jobs I worked to get me here that weren't in the industry, and all moments of, no, I think I can do this. Let me keep on trying to do this. Having that faith in myself, and having all these people in my life that have cheered me on and have taught me and have given me the opportunity to do this, being like, okay, that was all worth it, because here I am and I'm doing the thing I wanted to do. And some people like it. Some people like the thing that I'm doing.
As they should, because you do amazing work. But especially, there was also some questions in the chat of, what are you working on now? What are some of the projects you're working on now in our industry? Especially, working on unannounced projects or projects that are under embargo. How do you keep that confidence during such long stretches where you can't speak on the projects that you're working on? How do you stay confident? Yes, the award probably helps, but generally speaking, it's not like you get an award for every project that you do or get the recognition. So how do you big yourself up?
Yeah, I think to your point, those of us in the industry, we spent a good chunk of our lives under NDA. We spend most of our time being like, maybe at some point I can tell you about. And unfortunately, there are games that get canceled, and sometimes you're never really able to talk about the things you've worked on.
We can take that conversation offline.
So I think it comes from, the awards are nice. Having people have positive feedback to your game is nice. But I think if that was the thing that drove me, I would have left a long time ago. You can't let that external stuff drive you to do it. It's the love of what you do. It's the love of the collaboration. It's getting in a room with a bunch of people that are passionate about the same thing as you and making something and being like, regardless of whether you want this to connect with other people and you want to make sure it does so you can make the next thing. You want to make sure the money comes in so you can make the next thing. But at some point, you just have to be like, I love what I do and I love working with these people, and that is the drive that keeps me going. Because there are going to be a lot of factors outside of your hand. You could make an amazing, fantastic game, and then GTA 6 pushed their game back, but will push their game back by a year, or another game will push their game back by a year, and all of a sudden, you're like, oh, I don't think award season's going to work out for us, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. It's such an interesting field that you work in, and such an interesting job that you do. Once again, even working in the industry for 20 years, there's still so much I learn whenever I have these conversations. Oh, yeah, even though I might have thought about it, but I didn't know. So to hear it coming from you, it's like, it's inspiring. So thank you for that. I also wanted to dive into the community that you built, because you previously helped form an online community for Black sound professionals.
Yeah.
But it eventually faded out. So why do you think some of these community initiatives lose momentum even when the need is still real? Because there is a need.
Yeah, it's life. Life happens.
That's a good explanation. Yeah, true.
It's the various things, like me and Monet Gardner, who she's an amazing sound person. She works in dialogue as well. And we end up working together at P43 Industries, now Halo Studios, on Halo Infinite. And she was, funny enough, she's one of the first Black people in this industry I got the chance to work with. Mind you, this was already a couple years into my career, as I think a lot of people has the same experience. But we were working together, and then COVID happened. We were in Seattle. The George Floyd protest happened, and we started talking a lot more about how we want to talk to like-minded people. And so we made this Facebook group, and it was going very well. And then things happened. We both got busy. We both left 343 for various reasons. I ended up doing an internship, an apprenticeship that took me down to the Bay. She ended up moving on to work at PlayStation and like got busy. And so it was one of those things like, it's hard to maintain a community when you're also trying to maintain your own career, when you're also trying to deal with life.
It was not a shot at me because I know we started, we at Ubisoft, we started Black Game Pros Mixers back in 2019. COVID happened. We went online for a few episodes, and then indeed, like you said, life happens. Other priorities happen. I had to make sure to keep my job and work on my main job is doing the events. So, and I had Ubisoft Forward to produce and other stuff. So it's normal that these kind of things happen, and you shift out of them. And then at a certain point in time, if you're ready or when you're ready, you pick it back up. Because for me, at a certain point in time, especially when I started this and we got an article for Black Game Pros Mixers, I felt a lot of pressure to almost like being known for, not per se my craft as the event guy, but for being the guy behind advocacy. It's like, and that to me was, I don't know, that didn't feel right for me. Did you ever feel that pressure as well, or was it normal for you?
I think the pressure comes when the thing you're doing starts to work and it's working well, and you're like, I gotta make sure it keeps on going. Like, to your point, like, something may fail, but something else may come out of it. Later on, Monet went and founded the Game Audio Diversity Alliance, and then she brought me into that organization where now I work as the fundraising and chair, and I feel a lot of pressure trying to make sure that we raise money to ensure that we can provide these scholarships to people of various backgrounds so that they can get an education, so that they can find mentors, so that they can attend industry, things like that. That's where I think the pressure doesn't come from people viewing me as, and more as being part of advocacy. The pressure is making sure that I can live up to what we're trying to do for these people.
I love how you segued into that, because that was actually my next question, talking about the game audio diversity. That's great how you picked that one up. Just for the people that don't know, so GADA supports underrepresented game audio professionals through mentorship, education, scholarships, and assistance attending industry events. Now, you've said that some scholars have continued working with mentors and gone on to enter the industry. What do you think someone needs after receiving access? Is it the conference pass, or is it the scholarship, or are these just the beginning?
Yeah, it's always, I think a lot of that stuff is very much the beginning, where everybody's going to come with different needs at once. Some people will come to us who will be like, hey, I'm doing this thing by myself. I'm putting the work in, but we've had one person who they lived in like a very rural part of the South, and they were a caretaker for people in the family, and getting on, it costs a lot of money to get to the nearest airport. It costs a lot of money to fly to this. It costs a lot of money to attend this conference, to have good clothes, to be in a position where all of your hard work can pay off. And so for that person, they may not necessarily need the scholarship to provide for education through the School of Video Game Audio run by Linda Paul. They may need just to get that foot in the door and to meet other people doing the thing and be like, hey, I'm doing this thing on my own. Let me talk to you. Other people will need the education. Other people will need that mentorship where they need someone to guide them through various aspects. It may be, how do I write my reel? How do I present my resume? It may be, hey, because our organization tries our best to match mentors that have a shared experience and in our industry veterans. So it may be, hey, you are trans and Black and you're doing this amazing thing in audio, and so am I. How do you navigate that intersectionality and being successful in your career? Because I don't know anyone like me that's doing this thing, but hey, you're doing this thing and you're like me, and that can make a massive difference.
Oh yeah, 100%. Also, one of the reasons why Black Game Pro Sessions exists here. It's showing people that look like us and showing that there's people that are doing amazing things that you can be inspired by. So, can you, without, of course, sharing any personal or private information, can you tell us like one individual that you work with and the progress that made you value this work that you're doing even more, that made it feel real to you? Was there like one example that you were like, I'm so happy that the GADA exists?
Yeah. So I work mostly with fundraising, so my interaction with the actual scholars will bend depending on if I show up to a conference or something. But we have one scholar, and they went on to get jobs in the industry, and they also went on to I believe they run like game audio meetups in I think Atlanta, and seeing them come to us starting with all this passion and this drive, and then going on and themselves where they live forming community, that's the full circle moment that you love, of being like, you're good at what you do, you're passionate, and you also want to give back too. And that's like, okay, it creates a cycle. It creates this lineage of giving back that's gonna keep on going way past what we're doing.
And that's why it's so important what you're doing and what you guys are doing with the organization, because it's if you can plant seeds for the future, we all eat well. I'm not sure if that's an expression, I just made it up, but I think it's important. It's important to do what you can do in order to help the next generation or even the current generation be in a better position.
Yeah.
Whoa, time flies. Holy shit. All right. So let's go into the future gaming, because you've expressed interest in seeing a wider variety of musical styles in AAA video games and the growing use of songs as an interactive storytelling element. So, in your opinion, what musical traditions, genres, or cultural perspective are still largely missing in major games or from major games?
Yeah, there's many different varieties of music, and that can from different cultures, from different backgrounds, that we're still, I think, scratching the surface of how we can use different songs and different soundtracks to provide a variety of music. One example, South of Midnight, which is I love that game so much. It's so great, and the music in it that draws from this Southern tradition. Originally, I'm from the East Coast of New Jersey, but my family has that root in the South, up deep roots in Texas, deep roots in Louisiana, and that's my ever since my great grandfather moved out the South. But I still hear that music and I still hear that tradition, and I try to remember, have I heard that Southern music get represented in that way in games? And not to that extent, not to how I think it shined a lot of the local culture and the local traditions. And I want to see more of that. I want to see people being like, no, we're going to really get into like trip hop, get really into how can I use music from Guinea, from that tradition of the African ballets that use djembes and different instruments. How can we actually incorporate that, and not just as like oh, I took 10 seconds, I'm going to drop some drum there, but get very deep. That Black Panther experience of, we are going to really use this music from this culture to tell a story in a way that highlights, reflects, and shows love. And there's so much more I think that we could do. So I'm excited about that feature, because I think you're seeing that happen more and more in games.
Which I think is great. The more games become normalized, or playing video games become normalized, the more important it becomes for gaming publishers like Ubisoft or others to use the right music, to speak the right language, and music is part of that language. Now, I have to ask, I know it's like the hot topic, AI.
Yeah.
As generative AI moves into music and audio production, where do you see legitimate creative value, and where should the industry draw a hard boundary, if we should draw a hard boundary?
Yeah, obviously everyone is going to have a different perspective on this. Personally, for me, I think if you are going to use these tools, and I don't use them that often, really. I don't really use them in my day-to-day job. aspects of the industry. But I think if that is the path you want to take, I think using it for things like tools can be useful. The things that will take a lot of time to spin off, as long as you're not, even outside of AI, I want to make sure that I don't get so bent up in the technology that it takes things away from the creative. Because for me, the beauty of music and the beauty of games comes from the people that makes them and the things that come from their minds, and making sure that's at the heart of everything that you do, and you never try to tech out that heart is important. Because I'm in games because I like to tell stories and I like to be part of that story making process. And stories come from being a person and that experience of living.
Yeah, yeah. Amen. Amen to that. Like, I'm gonna start wrapping up because otherwise I just keep on talking to you. The older we get, sometimes we see things in different perspectives. Sometimes we see things differently when we were younger. Was there one piece of career advice you once believed that you no longer agree with?
Oh, that's a good question. I thought you were going to take it somewhere else. I no longer believe it. I think one advice that I think I get very early, that I might have gotten very early on, that doesn't resonate with me as much is the the work will speak for itself. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. But I think stopping there does a disservice to what we have to do as creatives and what we have to do as professionals. Where yes, the work will speak to itself, but ultimately you need to advocate for yourself as well. I was very much a heads down, very quiet. I'm just doing the thing, and people will see what I'm doing. And I learned very much no, I have to advocate for myself. The work will speak for itself, but I need to be the amplifier for that work. I need to let people know what I'm doing. I need to know people why I'm doing it. I need to know people to know what I want to do as well. Or else I'm just going to be a quiet, silent voice in a room. And so I had to expand upon what the work speaks for itself actually means for me to get the career I want.
Never thought about it like that, but you're very right. Personal branding is super important. Your work only gets you so far, but if you need, like you said, don't amplify it, it will probably take a little bit longer. It will not happen at all because closed mouth don't get fed.
Yeah, I'm not like there are some people who are so incredibly talented and their works are so amazing that it does speak for itself. I never put myself in that category. No. I work a little bit harder to get my
But even the best artists, they still need someone or themselves to amplify what they do. Just putting your work out there, sure, unless you're like God level creative art or creative skills, I still think it always needs that amplification. It always needs this little push. I have two final questions for you. So one for the people watching who love music but cannot see themselves yet creating a realistic path for themselves into video games. In your opinion, what should they do in the next 30 days?
The next 30 days, first, kick that thought out of your mind. There's no one path. There's no one realistic path, especially when it comes to music and sound. I know I have talked to 50 people and they'll give you 50 different ways that they got into the industry. And so there isn't that path. I think, and this is how mine works. I was like, 30 days, I want to do this thing. Research, we have so much access. Find interviews like this of people who do things that you're interested in. Find random videos, like GDC post a lot of videos on YouTube. Randomly, just even if it's in the background, go through them and see if something that somebody says catches your ear. Be like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, let me go deeper into that. What did they do? What are the tools I need? What are the ways that I can learn the language to do that thing? And then it just kind of comes down to, after that, how much hard work you want to put in, how much time you want to put in. Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be a time sink, and you have to be willing to, you have to open up Unreal or Godot or whatever it is. You have to open up the engine and do the thing. You can think about it all you want, but at some point, you just have to do the thing.
Start.
Yeah. Start. It may be bad, but it usually isn't.
It will probably be bad. Exactly. The first thing will be shit. The first thing I ever designed, the first event I ever designed, or first poster, like, ugh, ugly
Oh,
as fuck.
I will never let anyone hear the first piece of music I ever wrote. That was the beginning of my journey, and it will stay there. But
You need to
I
start
had to do
somewhere.
it.
Yeah, exactly. So when people eventually look back at your journey and your career, what do they hope? What do they remember beyond the credits, and what do you hope they remember beyond the credits?
Yeah, honestly, I want people to look back at my career and be like, yes, he did very good work, and he was. If I can push the boundaries a little bit, I'd love to, but I want people to be like, he was someone that lifted other people up, and that he was someone that did his best to make sure that he created an avenue for other people to do things. Because I think my whole entire career, if I was going to plot that out, it's from this person gave me a chance, this person let me sat in, this person, when I was an intern for music, I talked with this guy named Kyle. He was a lead for dialogue, and I just said, hey, I'm leaving here, I've done a little bit of dialogue work in my past, can you give me some advice? And he didn't have to do this for me, but he was like, I'm going to contact these people I know that work at this company, give me your reel, give me your resume, and here's an opportunity. And that literally, without that, I don't know what my career would have been. And this was someone that didn't have to help me. And there's a lot of points in my life that I was like, yes, someone didn't have to help me, but they did. And I want to do that. I want people to remember me that I helped out people when I didn't necessarily have to, because that's the right thing to do.
Couldn't agree with you more. All right, final question.
Yeah.
If you have to create a soundtrack of your life career, what are the 3 songs that definitely need to be on that soundtrack?
Oh, wow.
It's a very difficult question for anybody, but especially for someone who works professionally in designing this kind of stuff.
I know I'm gonna reference a song, and I know people, like person who made it, people are like about. I think the meaning from the song is still important, which is Kanye West's "Through the Wire." The going through this various points in your life where, hey, you may get in a car crash, metaphorically or realistically, and you're still pushing through. I feel like I've had a lot of those moments.
It's a great song. It's a great song.
It's a great song. I'm trying to think of another one. That's one. Second one would probably be, oh man, I think just the entire soundtrack. I'm cheating a little bit.
It's all good. It's all good. It's your rules. It's fine.
Yes. But I think the soundtrack to, I'm cheating a little bit, but Finding Nemo, it feels like it's coming out of left field, but that soundtrack was very important to me, of when I learned how the composer works with his musicians and how he makes it such a collaborative process, and the minimalism that's in that music that can then blossom into these big, beautiful themes. I like to think that I tend to start from a place of minimalism, of being quiet, being more honed in, and then when I need to, having these moments. Yeah.
Love that.
God. Yeah, really difficult, good questions. Yeah.
But it's interesting how you visualize the audio. You turn something that is audio into a picture, which I love, because you drew me a picture just now. Why this music is important, and that's great. And it's fine. You don't have to come up with a third one unless you do have it. Because I think Chase agrees. Indeed, that's
always a difficult one.
Hard one to answer. No, but dude, I appreciate you, good sir. It was fun. I learned a lot.
I had a good time. Thank you for bringing me on.
Yes, dude. Thank you for being here. Thank you for also, apologies for going a little bit over time. I want to be respectful of people's, no, you're a busy man. I'm just going to go home afterwards and eat some pizza, that kind of stuff. It's evening for me. No, but really, dude, really appreciate this. I have so many more questions I would love to ask you, but we'll keep that maybe for part 2 or later. Colin, really, thank you for sharing the story. Thank you for drawing a picture. Thank you for taking something that is abstract for a lot of people. I'm not going to talk for a lot of people. That can be abstract to someone like me, and turning it into something that's tangible, something that's visual. And yeah, like I said, you taught me something new, so I'm appreciative.
No, yeah, I always love You let me talk about the things I'm most passionate about: music, video games, advocacy. So this has been great.
I'm sure we'll find some more opportunities to go even deeper into one of these specific topics because I think there's so much to say.
Yeah.
A compliment from Jacob.
Hi, Jacob.
Compliment from Chase. From Elliot.
Yeah.
I think people are enjoying the interview and enjoying the story that you shared. So on that note, I'm going to release you back into the world to be amazing and keep on being amazing. For the people watching, for engaging, interacting, thank you so much. Even if you're watching this on demand or later, if you're not watching this live, I appreciate it. I'll be back again next week with Black Game Pro Sessions, where we will have Contraviction, content creator, Victoria Brown, retro gamer, collector of amazing things, where we're going to dive deep into fandom, into retro gaming. So, Colin, really, once again, appreciate you, good sir.
Thank you. Appreciate you too.
Alrighty. Later. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.